Mine came Mark Phillips. Mark's an amazing father, married to Jen. They have three children, two boys, one girl. You know him from Mystical Distribution, amongst other things. And what does Mark mean to this area? He was the Business Person of the Year in 2019 in Quinte West at the Chamber. He has that wonderful Remembrance Day display in Trenton every November, a chance to honor Canadian war heroes. And last year, he was the Guardian Angel winner with the Children's Foundation here in Belleville that serves the Quinte area. So Mark Phillips is our guest speaker today. He's going to share us his story on coming to Canada. Mark, welcome to the Belleville Inclusion Committee meeting, and we're looking forward to hearing your story.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate the chance to talk and let you guys know a little bit about myself and a little bit about my story. And I never really planned for this, prepared what I was going to say. I wasn't quite sure what you wanted me to say. Do I talk about myself coming to Canada as a person from Jamaica, Black person, and move into this area, or did you want me to talk about my business? But maybe I'll talk a little bit about everything. I moved here about 19 years ago. And when I moved here, there really weren't that many people of color in this area. I remember there was really one other Jamaican person I knew, and that was Milton Edwards. And this area has really expanded and been very, very welcoming. And I see it every day. You're in the Walmart, there's people of color, there's Black people, there's Indian people, there's people, Filipino people, there's other business owners that I come across that I say, hey, where are you from? You know, it says a lot about this area, because everybody that I come across seems to be happy with the area. They're glad they're here. I certainly am. I came here 19 years ago, and I've been in other areas. I've lived in several places. I lived in Alberta. I lived in British Columbia. Somehow I was there, but I never really fit in. I was good. I was happy. I had friends, but you never really felt like you were part of the community. In some ways, there was always something missing. And I, you know, there's just something about this area, Belleville, Trenton, Prince Edward County, that made me really feel that this was my home. I've told my wife this is where we're going to live the rest of our lives. They're going to bury me in Trenton. I love it here. And a little bit about my stories. I came here, I was 19 years old. I came here from Kingston, Jamaica. We didn't come here with very much, but we came here with a work ethic, and we came here with a desire to get ahead and knowing that we were going to a better place. And we were thankful and grateful. And I still haven't lost that thankfulness and gratefulness that I was allowed to come to Canada, because there were many, many people in Jamaica that wanted to leave that weren't allowed to leave. And there were many people that made the mistake of immigrating to different places. And I don't think their experience in some of those other countries, and I won't call names, but I have a lot of family and a lot of friends in other countries. And when I talk to them and I talk to their experience and the things that has happened to them there, and I say, you know, not everything in Canada was positive, but by and large, I think I had a better experience, and I had a really good life coming to Canada. We came, and like I say, we didn't come with very much. We came and times are pretty tough. And my mom had instilled a really good work ethic in us, and I started in business, and I've been fairly successful. We have businesses now. We have factories that I'm partners in Cambodia, and we have offices in China, and we've built something from a lot of it from this area. It started before I moved here, but a lot of it from this area. and we become a brand that's recognized and a brand that sells in many countries around the world. And I've done that as a Black Canadian person. And have there been challenges? Yes, there have been challenges. There have been challenges. Is it more difficult as a Black person in Canada trying to get ahead? Absolutely. There are doors that I have to break down those doors sometimes. They are they are they are things and the ways that people look at you and the ways that people greet you and the ways that things are done that had I been white, I would have had a different experience. And even my business partner, him and me travel quite extensively, not so much anymore, but we have for years. And I remember him telling me once, he says, Mark, it's always interesting traveling with you because we never know who's going to pull us over. And it's true, you know, you go into different hotels and people are you registered here, sir? Are you this? Are you that? And it goes on and on, you know, the second screenings in customs, the way the police respond to you, the way that people see you, and it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. I remember the first time I bought a house in a nice neighborhood, and I was living in Lethbridge, Alberta at the time, and I thought, oh, well, we can afford it. We can move into this nice neighborhood. Well, everybody in the neighborhood thought, well, the drug dealers are moving in. They naturally assumed because I was Black, because I was relatively young at the time, because I was moving into that neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood, and it was pretty tough. I wasn't with my wife at the time, but I had a girlfriend from Colombia, and she had a little boy that I was taking care of at the time as well too. And it was pretty hard because even the kids in the neighborhood, they well, your dad's a drug dealer, this, that, and they knew nothing about me, but they naturally assumed because I was able to afford a home in their neighborhood that I did things that I just would never ever do. So you know, we've had our struggles, and it kind of chokes me up sometimes when I talk about it. But we've also had so many good times here in Canada, and especially in this area. When, like I say, I came here, there weren't many people of color. It was a little bit of a challenge. It was a little bit different. I remember once going to I like to snowmobile. I think I'm the only Black person that snowmobiles. I've never ever come across another Black person snowmobiling. I remember going to a snowmobile show once in Peterborough, and I walked in with a friend of mine, and it's like you could feel that something had changed in the air. It's really hard to explain what changes in the air, but you you know that something changed. Well, what's this guy doing here? You know, but I persevered. I move on. I just believe in excellence. I believe in hard work. I'm a pretty humble guy. I'm a pretty grateful guy. And my story is one of a person that came from a undeveloped country that came to Canada and has been fairly successful. I have a good family, and my kids are going to build on what I have built on. And I'm sorry if I choke up a little bit, but I was up last night thinking of a lot of the things that had actually happened in Canada, and they really weren't all good, but we still move on. And I somebody asked me once what it was like to be a Black man living in Canada, and I'll give you an example. I thought about this was probably the best example that I could bring up, and it never really happened in Canada. It happened in the United States. My son and I went down once to the United States for a fireworks show, And we were there on the Saturday night, and we were about 4 or 5 hours drive from Cleveland. And my son says, "Dad, why don't we drive down and watch an NHL game?" And, you know, I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought, yeah, it would be fantastic to go and watch an NHL game, or not an NHL, an NFL game in Cleveland. We're going to watch the Cleveland Browns. And it was about a 4 hour drive. And the only thing that I could think of is I was going into Cleveland, and Cleveland's probably a pretty tough American city. And I wasn't really scared of the city. My only concern was I have a 4 hour drive in the United States of America. What if the police pull me over? I'm driving a really nice truck. I got Canadian license plates on it. And this was my concern. And it's a concern that I don't think many people, if you're not a person of color, would have had driving in the United States. And I use this example because it's probably the best example, but it's not that far off from my experiences in Canada. Um, you look at things a little bit differently. You take a little bit more precautions. You make sure that when you're pulled over, your hands are visible. You follow a different set of rules. You know, I remember once going into the mall, and I went to a jewelry store to buy my wife some jewelry for Christmas, and I was in there for about 20 minutes. The weird thing about it is I knew the man that owned the jewelry store, but his wife was serving me that day, and her kids went to school with my kids, and they were in a grade older than me. I knew who she was. Um, there must have been 10 people in line before me, and everybody paid for the jewelry on Visa. But when my turn to pay came, I had to show ID. It's just little things that, and I don't even know if this is really what you wanted me to talk about, because I didn't really have any real guidelines, but I figured because it was Black History Month, maybe I talk about a little bit of my experiences and let you understand a little bit more of what a Black person has to do, or a person of color has to do, in order to be successful in Canada. You have additional barriers that you have to break down. But I got to tell you this, things are changing. Things are not as bad as when I came. I came in 1977. Things are not as bad. Things are good. Things are getting better in this area. There's great people in this area. I never walk around in this area and feel that there is going to be problems, or there's some kind of prejudice. I just don't feel it in this area. We are very, very, very fortunate in this area. This is a fantastic area, Belleville and Trenton. We have our MP Todd Smith is a man of color. He's a fantastic person. He does well in this area, and I really don't know where to go from here. Just I've been successful. I've worked hard. I at the end of the day, I'm really grateful for the opportunity in this area, and I don't really know if I've addressed the issues that you guys wanted to hear, because um, I didn't really prepare for this. I just
No, I really appreciate just you sharing your journey with the committee today, Mark. We should say you're in Mystical Distribution, and legendary for your fireworks throughout the country and around the world. And your business is based out of Trenton,
yeah,
and you've been very successful with that business and across the country. I've had a chance to tour your place.
yeah. Thank you, Sean.
Any questions for Mark today from committee members? Councillor Thompson, did you raise? Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Yeah, Mark, it's great to. I don't know whether I've ever had the opportunity to meet you or not. Your story is an inspiration to us to hear that Belleville and Trenton is in the Quinte area is getting better. If if there was some discrimination there, and I'm sure there is, and I'm sure there still is. When you were in Vancouver or the BC area, did you start your business out there?
Philadelphia Taylor says some toast or something.
I started my business actually in Lethbridge, Alberta, and I was in Lethbridge, Alberta I started my business in 1986. I was in Lethbridge, Alberta. And after a while, there was more opportunity in the British Columbia area. So I moved my business to British Columbia, and about 18 years ago, I moved it here to Belleville area. We still have an office in Abbotsford, British Columbia. I'm still pretty active out there. We still have large staff numbers out there, and we do sell in Western Canada out of there, but this is our head office now in Trenton.
So do you, when you travel, now you say you don't travel as much as you used to, do you still feel the discrimination in the traveling business, or has that eased off?
I don't feel it as much as I did, but things are a little bit different. As you get a little bit older, no matter who you are, people look at you a little bit differently. I think part of the discrimination I felt when traveling and when going into hotels and things like that was because a lot of this happened when I was younger. I think as you get older, no matter what color you are, no matter who you are, people look at you a little bit differently as you're older, and they tend to not stereotype you that much. So I don't feel it as much now as I've had in the past. Would a younger me still feel it in this day and age? I really don't know.
Okay, and my last question, Chair, with our committee, is there one thing that you see that this committee maybe should be working on to try to make sure that we eliminate discrimination, and make sure that we feel that inclusion? Because you know, it doesn't matter who we are, we're all one person, you know, we're all the same, but that isn't the same for everybody. And I think as a white person, there's times when we see somebody and we may feel some of that discrimination because we look at them differently. Do you feel there's something that is important that we could work towards as a committee because of your discrimination that you've felt?
I can't really think of anything offhand, to be perfectly honest. You know, I think to fight discrimination is something that's got to be taught in the schools, because it is not something that comes naturally to people. It's a learned thing. And it's not something that's going to change overnight. It's something that it's going to take a long time, and it changes slowly. It's not like somebody's going to wake up one day and they have a lot of hate in their heart one day, and then the next day it changes. These kind of things change gradually and over time, and it's things that change generationally. And you know, the experience is that I look at history, and you know, when the Irish people came over here, there was a lot of discrimination against Irish people. There were white people, but there was discrimination against them. When Italian people came over here, there was a discrimination against Italian people. So it's been around, but you know, things change. I don't think Irish people are discriminated against anymore in Canada where they once were. I don't think Italian people are discriminated against anymore in Canada where they once were.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mark. Yeah, the one thing that really I remember distinctly in the city of Belleville that was really heartwarming. A number of years ago, there was this shooting at the Muslim community in Quebec. And we arranged, our committee arranged a march from the mosque down in Belleville down to City Hall. I was absolutely flabbergasted, and maybe I shouldn't be. And that's where maybe we don't think the same, is the number of people that joined in on that march. And I just remember somebody saying, "Sing O Canada," and the person in the audience started to sing "O Canada." That was such an inspiration. And for people like yours, and not people that feel discrimination, is that an important event for people that maybe feel discrimination?
I think so. I
Yeah.
think anything that you can do like that, um, to show unity in a community. I
Yeah.
think anything that you can do like that.
Yeah, because we had over 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 people in that march. And some of the people that are on this conference call were certainly at that one, and they would remember it. But I'm interested to see if Dr. Runa Alexander has any questions, because I know that she's felt discrimination. So thank you, Mark, and thank you, Chair, for letting me speak.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other questions or comments to Mark this morning?
Can I ask?
Chief Chris Berry, go ahead. Thank you.
Morning, Mark, and thanks for sharing your experience. And my questions about more in terms of policing. Since you've moved to this area, you've been here 19 years. I'm curious to hear, not just with the Belleville Police, but local constabulary here. Have you had any negative interactions or felt that you were targeted unfairly?
Yes, I can tell you something. It's not something I've ever talked about. And I thought long and hard, is it something that I would want to bring up at this meeting? And I wasn't going to bring it up, but because you've asked me the question directly, I will answer it. About 8 years ago, in the city of Belleville, I found myself in the back of a police car with my arms handcuffed behind my back in the car, and the officer kept me there for about a half an hour. I have never felt worse than that in my life. I never forget the day it happened. It was a Saturday night, and it was the night of, it was a gala. I was at this gala at Albert College, and I was there, and I remember thinking to myself, I forget his name now. He's a federal MP, Liberal MP. He was at the table next to me, and there was all the muckety mucks in town next to me. And I remember the day I was wearing a tuxedo. And after it closed, about 6 of us went down to one of the local nightclubs there. And my wife and me were getting a taxi home. And to make a long story short, that night I ended up in handcuffs for no reason. Did the police officer target me because I was Black? I don't know. I don't know for 100% sure. Would you have done it to somebody else? In my mind, I doubt it very much. About 2 days after that happened, I went into the police station to make a report. And the police officer took me in a little room, and I actually recorded the conversation. I still have the recording of the conversation. I've never ever played it. I recorded the conversation, and when I came back, I put the recording in my safe. And I've never ever played the recording of that conversation since that day. It was about 8 or 9 years ago. But basically, he told me that, or he asked me, says the officer was having a bad night, and they were under a lot of stress. And they pretty much asked me not to press charges or not to do anything further. And at that time, I just agreed with them. I said, yeah, I did nothing ever happened after that night. But I have thought about that day 100 times. And if I had to do it again, for 100% sure, I would have done it differently. I would have pressed some kind of charges, or I would have done something. I would have gone to the newspaper. I would have done something, because what happened to me, and I will never say it happened to me because I was Black. I suspect it wasn't right. I ended up in the back of a police car for no reason. And when I went in the next day, there were 101 questions. Well, how much did you have to drink? Well, over a period of about 7 or 8 hours, I had 5 beer. I wasn't drunk. There was nothing like that. But they had to ask her questions, and maybe one day I'll listen to that recording again, because I think I still have it, but I've never, and I didn't really want to say anything because I didn't want to put a negative spin on anything. I have friends on the Belleville Police Force, like Barry Lannon is a friend of mine. He's one of my best friends. He's one of the finest people I know. He's an awesome police officer. I've gone on a police ride along with him already. I have met other Belleville police officers, and they're great people. And I know that the police officer that did pull me over is no longer with the force. I did find that out. Somebody told me he's no longer with the force. And I know there were some other incidences with him. But you asked me about the police, and that's been my experience. Have I had positive experiences? Yes. One of the best nights in my life was when I went on a police ride along with Barry Lannon, and it was fantastic. But I have had negative repercussions with the police. And not just in Belleville. You asked me, in Canada, I would say there would be more negative police interactions than I could count on all my fingers over the years. It's just happened. I recall the first time it happened, I was about 19 or 20. It happened in Toronto. I went down to the police station. They pretty much laughed me out of the police station. I was 19 or 20. I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I could and couldn't do. But have I had negative repercussions? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But and be honest with you, I've had positive interactions as well too. Really, really positive interactions. And I wasn't really going to say anything just because I don't like to rock the boat, and I don't like to say negative things, but yeah, it wasn't a nice experience.
Okay, well, thank you. And I asked because I want to know. So I appreciate you being honest, and the fact you didn't want to put a negative spin or a negative slant on this conversation. But those are the kinds of things that we need to know about, especially in senior management. And I recognize that, like you said, that person doesn't work here anymore, but I would still be interested at some point, if you were willing to let me talk to you offline at the end of this meeting, if I could get a little bit more information from you. Because even though that person doesn't work here anymore, we want to make sure we have a culture here. We've got, I think I spoke yesterday, we've got almost a 70% turnover in the last 6 years in our officers on the front line because of the hiring. So we've got a much younger, positive, energetic workforce coming in here, but I don't want them being exposed to some of those bad apples like you talked about there. And I want to make sure there's no opportunity for that to happen. So if you're willing to talk to me about it, I'd like to speak off.
Call me anytime. It's Mystical Distributing, and I'm here all day today and tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Thanks, Mark. Any other questions? Well, listen, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story with Black History Month with the Belleville Inclusion Committee. Really appreciate your time, Mark. And
I appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and all the best to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for your work with the City of Belleville last year at the Festival of Lights and Canada Day celebrations. We worked closely with Mystical Distribution. So great team you have there in Quinte West to work with. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Sean. Take care. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.